Hello, I'm Francesca Zambello. I'm the artistic director of the Washington National Opera at the Kennedy Center, and I am here today with Leah Crocetto and Quinn Kelsey, two wonderful Verdi artists who have performed frequently with WNO. We're going to be together, all of us, for an hour to talk about Verdi and themes and ideas. But sadly, none of us are together in our normal artistic home, which is the Kennedy Center. We are in various locations in central New York, in Toronto, and in Michigan. Our artistic home is closed right now, as many of you know, and I want to honor what we are doing at the Kennedy Center for 9 nights. Now the lights that normally illuminate the building will be dimmed in honor of George Floyd, marking the final moments of his life. We all take a stand for George Floyd and for so many others who have lost their lives as a result of racial violence and bigotry. Dimming the lights is a symbol, and it is not a solution. Ours is an expression of America's grief and our solidarity with Black audiences, artists, colleagues, and community. Black lives matter, Black voices matter, Black stories matter, Black culture matters. The center is always a home for critical conversations about race and discrimination. We now are preparing strategies to be an even greater service to the many, many artists who have worked with us in the past and new artists who will come to work with us. We will be sharing these initiatives in the coming weeks with all of you. So it is very fitting today to visit Verdi. The music of Verdi is much more than that. He was an incredible political observer and activist in his time. He was censored by his government, but he always spoke out. He was a 19th century campaigner for freedom. At the end of his career, he even did things like establishing a home for aging musicians and singers in Milan, which is still there, Casa Verdi. He composed over 25 operas throughout his career, and he is, to me, one of the greatest composers in all of history. Interestingly, his works have been performed more than any other composer worldwide. There is something that he's credited for, which I think is so important, why we're hearing his music today, was that many people believe that he brought Italy together. The Italian unification of 1848, which is called the Risorgimento, was all about the many different factions of Italy. There were many different colonies and city-states which were completely separated from each other. And his music played and sang for these people. And it is believed truly that his music was responsible for helping the political and social movement to bring together all of the parts of the Italian peninsula as we know it today. So I am thrilled that we're going to hear some of his music. We're going to hear 3 parts of his life, 3 parts of his music. We often think of Verdi as a composer who wrote what we call early Verdi, middle Verdi, and late Verdi. And early Verdi particularly was where he was grappling with oppression and the censors and trying to speak to his people. I think many of you may have heard the chorus Va Pensiero from Nabucco, which is an early opera, 1842, where the people are crying out against the oppressors. And that chorus has become a rallying cry through many countries right now. And the thing that's so important about him was that he always spoke for those who he felt did not have a voice. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hear 2 arias from the early Verdi period. We're going to first hear Leah Crocetto singing an aria from Ernani, which is called Ernani Involami, which means Ernani, come and get me. Her character's name is Elvira, and she is trying to get away from the evil baritone character, Silva. She is going to be accompanied remotely by the director of our CAFRIS Young Artist Program, Robert Ainsley. And then we will hear baritone Quinn Kelsey, who is joining us from Toronto with his accompanist, and he will be singing an aria from Macbeth, which I think we haven't done. We haven't done Ernani either, and believe me, these are operas I definitely want us to get on. He will be singing Pietà, Rispetto, Amore. So I now want to turn it over and welcome Leah Crocetto and Rob Ainsley with Ernani in Volami. Thank you.
Questo neoto veglio che quale mondo spetro ogni ordine insegue col favellar d'amore per
Perfidi all'anglo contro me vomite, e potenze pressaghe han profetato, esser poi sanguinario feroce, ne son nato di donna di noce. No, non temo di voi, né fanciullo che vi conduce. Raffermar sul trono quest'assalto mi debbe, o sbalzarmi per sempre. Questa vita sento nelle mie fibre in aridi vita. Pietà, rispetto, amore, conforto, ricadenti, non spargeranno un fiore. Non spargeran un fiore la tua canuta età. Nel sul tuo regio sperar soavi accenti sulla bestemmia poi lasso la legna tua sarà, la legna tua sarà, sarà bestemmia, sarà bestemmia, il lasso, la legna tua sarà. Il lasso, la legna tua sarà, sarà bestemmia, il lasso. Sola bestemmia in esso la nenia tua
Great. Thank you so much. That was Quinn Kelsey with Nicole Bellamy on the piano in Toronto, and Leah in Ann Arbor, Michigan, with Rob Ainsley on the piano. I thought we would chat a little bit about Verdi and these characters now, and interpreting the many characters. And I have to say, for those who don't know, Leah and Quinn are just two American artists who have been so accomplished in taking on these Verdi roles at major opera houses around the world. And we are thrilled always to have them with us in Washington, and very much consider them part of our family there. I think I have been seeing some questions coming in on the chat, and what I'd love to do is keep the questions. We're going to have a little question break later, so keep them coming and we'll keep track of them and we'll get back to them. For now, I'd love to hear from these artists a bit about some of these roles. I mean, Quinn, you and I most recently did Louisa Miller together, where you're the incredibly sympathetic father, the Miller, at the Lyric Opera of Chicago, in a heartbreaking performance for me. You were so beautiful in that role. And then Macbeth,
you.
You watch this guy go from bad to worse, I think. I don't know. So where are you on these? Because the Verdi baritone, it's either like, is he the good guy or is he dad?
You're so right. I guess one of the only complaints I could really have with our man Joe Green is, why couldn't I have been the love interest just once? Because usually I am either dad or the villain, or I guess in Trovatore he's kind of the lover, but he never gets the opportunity.
Well, we're going to get to hear Il Belen,
Of
where
course.
he confesses his love, but it's all about Manrico.
Right. Well, no, of course, and so, but it's fine. I mean, I have the opportunity to sing some really wonderful music, and so I'll live.
Okay, all right, good. And Leah, we have done several Verdi operas together, and I'm so interested when I see this early Verdi, how different it feels to be singing this and acting this versus what comes later in life. Thoughts on that?
It's interesting, and you can really see the way Verdi wrote sopranos in his earlier career, where it was closer to the bel canto era, because you've got a lot of fast coloratura, a lot of movement, a lot of arpeggios way up to a high C and then way down on staccato, and that doesn't really exist in middle Verdi and late Verdi. It does in a little bit in Trovatore, but some would argue that Trovatore is early Verdi as well. So there you have it. But and I also feel that his heroines, or the sopranos, are always the heroine in Verdi, but they evolve emotionally as well. And I do believe Verdi was a feminist without meaning to be a feminist.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah, and the reason I believe that is because he gives his sopranos such power in the opera. He loved writing for the soprano voice, and I'm so appreciative of that because I love singing his music. So, for instance, in this opera, she's a bit of a damsel, but she also stands her ground, and she tells everybody what's up. You know, they all know where Elvira stands in this opera. And later in Verdi, with the Trovatore, the hero of the story is not Manrico. The hero is Leonora. She's the one that sacrifices her life and rescues, and she makes all the choices. And then, you know, you go later still, and you've got Aida, and you've got all of the country or family or love, you know, country, family, or love. And once again, there's that stalwart power that's in the soprano, and the fact that he gives her a choice.
Right.
And so I have a lot of fun diving into all those characters and seeing what I can do to make her very strong.
We're going to hear some of that now, right? We're going to look a little to Middle Verdi, and we're going to hear three arias. The first being Patti Siamo from Rigoletto, where Quinn, I bet you've sung that part more than any other role.
A few times.
And the translation is "we are all equal," which is such a appropriate lyric for now. Exactly. Interestingly, when Verdi wrote this, he was deeply censored, and because basically Rigoletto, the jester of the court, wants to kill the king in the original source material, and of course that couldn't happen in Italy, so that's why the duke became a duke instead of a king. So we're going to hear first Patti Siamo from Rigoletto, and then Leah is going to give us Aida, who I think becomes such an amazing character as she grows through the opera in her signature first aria of the opera, Ritorna Vincitor. And then we will hear Il Baleine from Trovatore, where De Luna, the Count, confesses his love for Leonora. Of course, he doesn't get her because, as Quinn says, he's the baritone. But anyway, so over to these three pieces that really so much exemplify the work of Middle Verdi, starting with Patti Siamo from Rigoletto. Thank you.
Pari siamo, io la lingua, e gli hai la pugnale, l'uomo savio che ride, e quel che spegne. Quel vecchio male uomini, o natura, il scellerato, mi faceste voi, o rabbia esser difforme, o rabbia esser buffone, non dover, non poter altro che ridere. Il retaccio d'ogni uomo è tolto, il pianto. Questo padrone mio, giacondo, si possente, bello, sonne chianne mi dice, che arrida buffone, forzar videggio e farlo. Oh, dannazione! Odio a voi, cortigiani schermitori, quanta in mordervi ho gioia, sei lico son, per cagion vostra e solo. L'altr'uomo qui mi canto, quel vecchio male divammi. Al pensiero, perché conturba ognore la mente mia, i coglierà sventura. Anno e follia.
Ritorno vincitor, e dal mio labbro uscì l'empia parola. Vincitor del padre mio, e voi che pugnalarmi per me, per ridonarmi una patria, una reggia, il nome illustre che qui tirarme forza. Vincitor dei miei fratelli, un Dio non veda, tinto del sangue amato, trionfar nel plato degli egizi e coorti, e dietro caro un re, mio padre, di Catilio di l'insana parola dove spergete al seno d'un padre la figlia rendete, struggete, struggete, struggete le squadre dei nostri oppressor. Sventurata che dissi, in amor mio, dunque scordar possio questo fervido amore io presa e schiava come l'occhio del sol qui mi pelava sopri nomi di madre amate, ne proferir possio, ne ricordar, per l'altro, confusa tremante, io piangere vorrei pregar. Non mi pregi, bestemmio seduta, e dito il pianto meco e vai il sospir, in note muta trovetti perduta, e nell'ansia crudel vorrei morir. Numi pietà del mio soffrir, spegni del mio dolor. Amor fatal, tremendo amor, spezzami il cor, fammi morir. Numi pietà del mio soffrir, pietà, numi pietà del mio soffrir, numi pietà del mio soffrir. Numi pietà del mio soffrir.
Tutto è deserto, né per l'aria ancora suona l'usato carme. In tempo io giungo, ardita, e qual furente amore ed irritato orgoglio chiesero a me. Spento il rival, caduto ogni ostacolo sembrava a miei desiri. Novello ai più possente là vi appresta l'altare. Ah no, non fiatatri Leonora, Leonora mia. Il suo sorriso d'una stella vince guarda il suo bel viso, nuovo in fondo e coraggio, l'amor, le favalli in Dio favor. Sperda il sole d'un suo sguardo, lieto e poi sta del mio cor. L'amor, l'amore ondardo, le favelli in mio favore. Sperda il sole d'un suo sguardo, la tempesta del mio cor. L'amor, l'amore ondardo, le favelli in mio favore. Sperda il sole d'un suo sguardo. Sperda il sole d'un suo sguardo, alla tempesta. La tempesta del mio cor.
Great, both of you. I hope you can hear all the applause that's coming from the listeners. I know it's such a, the most important component that is missing, of course, is you out there, the audience. We are desperate to be back and to be with you. And I know that we are working on that at the Kennedy Center, and we will find ways going forward. We miss you more than you can possibly imagine. While you both were singing, a few questions came in, and I thought we would share them with you all now before we go to our last section. Quinn, a great question from a gentleman named James, who says, what is the favorite Verdi baritone that you listen to if you want to hear somebody in your downtime?
Oh. I mean, there are so many in I guess what you would call, the classic golden age. I mean, where do you begin? Leonard Warren, Piero Capocilli, Leonucci, Ettore Bastianini, Cheryl Milnes. There were just so many greats, and so I guess what I've tried to do in the past is to just listen to them all and distinguish them from one another, and to learn or absorb as much as possible the special bits that caused them to stand out. The little things that they did that nobody else did that really defined them, and to cultivate as much from each one of them as I saw fit in developing my own sound. So,
and that's what makes, great singing, and what makes us keep coming back is when somebody has that own sound and that unique sound, and that's what we all as audience members and listeners crave, is to hear that. Another question was, what advice would you give a singer exploring Verdi for the first time, Leah?
Oh my goodness. You don't know how many times I get asked this question.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think it's because I've started doing, artist in residencies and working with a lot of young people.
Right.
My very first, I was kind of thrown into the deep end. I made my European debut in 2010 singing Leonora and Il Trovatore. Now, some argued that was too early. Some argued that was just right. I personally felt like it's just right because it's a very bel canto-esque piece. Right. I suggest finding a character that you relate to, but I also suggest, like I was saying earlier, the earlier Verdi is much lighter and flightier, and his women were also lighter and flightier in the beginning. The middle is you get that grounded middle voice, that comes in, and then the late Verdi is a mixture of lyrical, and you still get the grounded voice, but man, you need that chest voice to open up to sing that later Verdi. Except Desdemona, she's sweet and lyrical, but also a powerhouse character. So I would say, look at what is comfortable for you. There's nothing wrong with experimenting with an aria or two that might be a Fach bigger for you. But look at what's comfortable for you and what you feel that you can try. And I suggest using some of the coloratura passages in an aria as vocal exercises, and then you can really get familiar with it and see how Verdi feels in your voice.
Yeah. Quinn, do you have any advice for a young singer and how they want to start to explore Verdi for the first time?
Pazienza.
That's patience in Italian.
Well,
yeah.
Just in my own development experiences, there along the way, there were people who were all very concerned and excited for my voice and my abilities, but you could also see that they weren't sure what direction my voice was going to go in, or that they had ideas that it might go to Verdi, and so there could be there can't be any rushing at all, but I think even more I had to be sort of restrained until such time as my mentors and the coaches and teachers around me were sure that my voice was in fact made for this repertoire. And so it's singing in general, a singer's development can be so delicate. You only have one voice. Right. You can't go to the music store and buy a new valve or another reed, or right. Go and get one of the hammers changed in the piano. So you have to be so sure, and you have to be so sensitive to everything that your voice does, but everything that your body is telling you. And so in regards to Verdi, it's just like slapping more layers of, no, you can't do this yet.
Right. Good. Well, I love that you've only got one, and going and buying a new hammer for the piano, which says to me, I definitely want to give a shout out to Nicole Bellamy, who's back there
yes,
in
please.
the screen. Nicole, thank you for your beautiful playing. And
thank
to
you.
Rob Ainsley, the director of the Capers Young Artist Program, who is accompanying Leah, who's off camera.
Can I tell you what else he's doing?
What?
Because of the free space and that we're not in the same room, every time there's empty space, he is meticulously counting the beat so that we stay together. And I have him projected here and you guys in the center.
Wow.
It's crazy.
We want to be back live. We want to
Yes,
be
we
back
do.
live.
Yes, we do.
Which, of course, makes me think back to when we had you both live together. Not only Leah this year as Desdemona opening our season in Othello opposite Russell in just beautiful, heartbreaking performances, but just a little bit more than a year ago to have Quinn and Leah together, also with Russell, with Eric Owens and Jamie Barton, really a cast of amazing American Verdi artists on stage with Don Carlo. And we did what is known as the Milan version, which is from 1884. Verdi, Don Carlo's an opera he kept working on. He first wrote it in French for the Paris Opera, and then he in 1867, and then he rewrote it for London. He rewrote it for Milan. He rewrote it for Modena. And I definitely believe in that. Like, composers should keep working on things if it's important for singers, or in this case, the companies wanted it in French, in Italian, with a ballet, without a ballet, shorter, longer, all of those things. But you both gave two beautiful, beautiful performances, which certainly live in important history for the Washington National Opera. And so now we're going to turn to this opera, which is perhaps the most political of Verdi's, and one where he really spoke so loudly on the issues of oppression and also specifically about religious freedom. And I think that the great freedom fighter, the character of Rodrigo, which Quinn played, is going to sing his aria, his final aria, Io moro, I am dying. And then Leah will sing Tu che la vanità, which is Elizabeth's aria from the last act, where she is kneeling at the tomb of Carlo V and begging him in some way to help her figure out this amazing quandary that this woman has gotten herself into, in a way where she has this marriage basically with the idea of uniting the two countries, but she's actually in love with her husband's son, which is her stepson. Now that sounds like Wagner, but it's Verdi. In any case, so if anybody wants to send questions while we hear the next two arias, I think we'll have a couple minutes for a few more at the end. And now we're going to turn to Don Carlo. First of all, Quinn with Io moro, and then Leah with Tu che la vanità, and then we'll be back for some quick questions before we leave you. Thank you for being out there, audience. We're very grateful.
Thank you.
Quinn.
Carlo, ascolta. La madre aspetta a San Giusto doman. Tutto ella sa. La terra mi manca. Quando mio, quando porgi la così servar alla Spagna un salvatore di me non ti scordare. di me. Non ti scordare, regnare tutto avevi, ed io morir per te. Io morro, lieto in cuore che potei così servar alla Spagna un salvatore. Di me non ti scordar, la fermanca, la mano a me. Salva la Fiandra, Carlo, addio, ah.
Giuro d'amor, addio dove ascolto, e questa eternità un giorno sol durò. Trovo i vaghi giardini ed era in questa iberra, si calmo ancor dovrà fermare i passi a sera, e le zone, i ruscelli, i fonti, i boschi, i fiori con le loro armonie cantino il nostro amor. Addio, addio, bei sogni d'or, illusione perduta, il nodo si spezzò, la luce tanta muta. Addio, addio, perdoni ancor, chiedendo il dol crudel, il cor ha un sol desir, la pace della tu che ne vanità conoscesti del mondo e guardi nella vel il riposo profondo. S'ancor si piange in cielo, piangi sul mio dolore, e guarda il pianto mio al trono del Signor. E pianto mio al trono del Signor. E porta il pianto al trono del Signor. Se ancor si piange in cielo, reca del Signor.
both of you. God, that was so great. Old-fashioned Verdi singing. I love that. It makes me feel so good. And to also visualize in my mind and hear you all, of course, with the wonderful orchestra and chorus, and in that production on the stage of the Opera House at the Kennedy Center. Before we go away, I'm just going to do one question that's come in that I think is a fun question for both of you. Several people have asked, what is the Verdi role you would like to sing most? And what is the Verdi role that you wish you could sing, but you never will?
Leah.
Oh, okay. Well, I get to sing all my favorite Verdi, but the ones I haven't done, I'm dying to do Forza. I'm dying to do Forza del Destino. I've not done a ballo yet, un ballo in maschera. So I would love to do either of those two. And then one that I don't think I'll ever sing, but I'm not sure I want to, is what's her name? Your daughter in Rigoletto.
Gilda. Okay,
Gilda.
that was funny. Okay, okay, okay. All right. Okay, that's like yeah. Okay, great. And
It would be
how
like,
about you?
yeah, it would be like trying to fit a size 10 foot in an 8 shoe if I tried
Right.
to sing that.
So,
Yep, I get it.
Quinn, how about you?
I'm not trying to cheat by going along with Leah, but I've been so blessed to have performed a big pile of the Verdi baritone rep to date, and again, like she said, I haven't done Forza, I haven't done ballo.
Wow.
Two I'd definitely like to do. Well, there was a ballo that was supposed to happen and didn't happen, and I'm just kind of going.
Yeah, same for me.
Well, it's just, if nothing else, it's just that as the years go by, it just becomes for me more and more evident that this is the music that I should be singing. I mean, it's such a wonderful fit every time I add a new role. You know, there's no heavy technical work that needs to go into
Right.
it. I mean, because of all the history I had with the other roles that I do, adding a new role doesn't take as long as it would otherwise. So I'm just so happy that all of this has worked out for me. I mean, sure, I could say Manrico or Radames, as I will say from once in a while, tenor for a day. Oof.
Okay. Well,
But
all right.
maybe
Well, we'll be
maybe Grand Inquisitor.
Okay. All right, great. Well, we'll be waiting for you to do the Manrico
Yeah,
together.
right.
Okay. So we have been so lucky, all of us, to hear some amazing Verdi arias today, to get a chance to think about this composer in a contemporary context and all that he believed in and all that he fought for and his values and how they speak to us today as artists and give us hope for how to carry on. I want to thank all of our producers today and also our wonderful accompanists, Nicole and Robert. And we're signing off here from the Kennedy Center, from the Couch Concert series, and we hope that we will be back with you live. And if not, make sure that you are following WNO on our website for more updates about our activities. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care and be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.